Hey everybody. I want to start off today by talking about Urban Meyer, and that'll kind of segue into the other stuff that I want to talk about. But let's start off by talking about him. For people that don't know, Urban Meyer is a football coach. He's a married football coach. Any other details you really don't need to know: who he coaches, where he coaches. Either you know and you know the story, or you don't know, and his background really isn't that important. Let's just focus on the facts that he is a football coach. He is a married football coach. Of course, I mentioned the whole married thing for a particular reason, as I get just random text messages. So forgive me for that. But with all of that said, long story short about Urban Meyer, he was in a bar. He was in a bar one night after a game. And while he was there was a young woman dancing between his legs. Wouldn't quite call it a lap dance. It was lap dance ish. Either way, it was compromising. That young woman that was dancing between his legs, you guessed it, was not his wife. And in this age of social media and phone cameras everywhere, and with him being basically a celebrity, he's a head football coach in the NFL, inevitably his actions were filmed and they were posted online. Now, some would say that it was cheating, whether they later had sex or not. I know that if I saw a video of my wife dancing in between some man's legs, I feel like that was cheating. At least I think some kind of way about it. I definitely feel like it was cheating. Either way, I couldn't see it making me happy after I saw it if I saw my wife doing something like that. But regardless of how it's being categorized, because that's not really the point. Was it cheating? Was it not cheating? I think we can all agree that his actions were disrespectful to his marriage and to his wife. Okay. But with that said, it sounds like an issue to me between a man and his wife. But this is where it gets more interesting. At least to me, it does, because you guys know how I think by now, like 90 episodes in. The next day, when this video goes viral, the debate starts about whether his job should be in jeopardy. And after that video that went viral, he had to go on like this apology tour. He had to apologize to the players on the team and the owner of the team and other people that worked in the building and the offices of the football team and all of that stuff. And the owner of the team issued a statement saying that Urban Meyer had to re-earn the trust of the team, had to re-earn his trust. I said that's where it gets interesting, but what I really meant was that's where it gets hypocritical. Now, this man acted inappropriately in a way that violated his marriage. That's between him and his wife. But it cracks me up to see another man saying that he needs to re-earn his trust for violating his marriage. So basically, Urban Meyer needs to re-earn his boss's trust for violating his own marriage. Okay, whatever. That just sounds strange to me. I wonder if it sounds strange to you all, but it just sounds strange to me considering that's really not that dude's business. But I guess if he's the owner of the team, but how much does being a boss like allow? Does it allow, does being the owner of a team, now he's paying him millions of dollars, but does that like invite him into his private life for judgment? That that just seems weird to me. The owner of that team that issued that statement, his name is Shad Khan. Shad Khan is 71 years old and is worth $8.6 billion. Now, what I'm about to say right now, I admit is a stereotype, and I also admit that it's wrong for me to stereotype anyone, including Shad Khan, but I just find it hard to believe that a billionaire that's been married since 1967, do the math, that's over 50 years of marriage. So he's still married to his wife. So he doesn't fall into the category of the couples that I mentioned that get divorced after 20 years, think 50 years. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is, I just find it hard to believe that a billionaire who's been married since 1967 has never acted inappropriately in his marriage. I hear about billionaires doing some freaky things because they have access that no one else in the world has. So to say that that access hadn't provided him with an extra woman or two over the 50 plus years that he's been married, I don't know. But talk about people that live in glass houses. And he's so rich, he might literally live in a glass house. That'd be kind of cool, except if the sun is shining. But anyway, he's a billionaire. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But again, I admit I'm stereotyping. Maybe he has been of unwavering faith to his wife in the 50 plus years that they've been married. But I feel comfortable betting my house on the fact that he's not so clean. Definitely not so clean that he can demand that someone re-earns his trust because a woman danced on his employee's lap. Bottom line to me, in Urban Meyer's case, is that Urban Meyer's issue is between Urban Meyer and his family. That's it. Period. End of discussion. And anybody that's calling for his job, sounds a little bit hypocritical. And when I'm thinking about that, and when I was preparing for this episode, it took me back to Tiger Woods, back when Tiger fell out of favor. And it all started, remember, when Tiger's wife took a golf club and chased him down the driveway. This is kind of funny. When his wife chased him down the driveway with a golf club and smashed the golf club through his window. And I think he wound up wrecking his car or something like that. And that was like headline news and all of this stuff. And she did all of that when she found out that he was cheating. Then all of a sudden, people are seeing Tiger in a different light and all of this stuff. And it's weird to me how you can see someone in a different light that you've never met, don't even know, you might see a couple times a month on TV, and you form this opinion that he's squeaky clean and he would never do this thing that his wife found that he had done. Oh my goodness, the horror of it all. Oh, Tiger. But here's what was so really strange to me. And I remember me and Reggie talked about this too back in the day on one of the episodes. Tiger went on this long apology tour. Like, he's apologizing to people that he doesn't even know. Like, he's apologizing to me because he cheated on his wife. Why in the world would I deserve an apology from Tiger Woods? Because he cheated on his wife. Outside of his wife and his kids, why would anyone deserve an apology from a man for cheating on his wife? But he did. He went around hat in hand, groveling, allowing everybody in the world to exact their pound of flesh, and he just took it. I tell you what, if I cheated on my wife and some random person came up to me trying to give me the business, I can't even think of two words that would come to my mind besides fuck and you. But I'm not Tiger Woods. So, And then on top of it, Tiger Woods plays sports. Urban Meyer's a sports coach. You can damn near kill a man, and there have been people that have killed people. And as long as you win, you can bounce back from that. People will forgive you. So the whole idea of apologizing for a private matter to people that don't matter and only care about you if you win, what's the difference? Michael Vick killed dogs. And to this day, people would still defend Michael Vick and saying, oh, there are people out there that kill people and they didn't get it as bad as Michael Vick, as if that excuses him like drowning and electrocuting dogs. But that's neither here nor there. This isn't about Michael Vick. Don't get me started on Ray Lewis, for example, who didn't actually kill anybody. He just helped cover for the dudes that did. Anyway, that's between Tiger Woods and his wife. That's between Urban Meyer and his wife. But with that said, since I'm on this roll, let me continue down this path. This one gets a little bit more nuance. I'll take it all the way back to Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton got impeached for basically getting his dick sucked. Republicans said that it affected his ability to do his job. But my question was back then, and it is still to this day, what if it was his wife sucking his dick? Would that have been acceptable? Would they have impeached him for having his wife suck his dick and saying that that impeded him from doing his job? Was it because it was happening during the day that he was getting his dick sucked? So as president, you're not allowed to interact sexually with anyone during daylight hours. Look, dude cheated on his wife. That's between him and his wife. Now, there were bigger issues, at least to me, involving his acting like a predator toward an intern. And that was, like I said, that was a real issue to me, but that wasn't the focus of everyone. Matter of fact, that wasn't the focus of most people. And it's still weird to me that Monica Lewinsky was and still is being treated like an outcast, basically for being preyed upon. She was like a early 20-year-old intern that was being preyed upon by ultimately her boss, who was the most powerful man in the world. And for some reason, she's the one that got the crap for it. He got impeached, but he's still beloved. And don't get me wrong, I voted for Bill twice. But still, that's because I can separate the fact that that's his job. And then he did something that violated his marriage, which isn't my business. But back then, especially in Republican circles, the circles that got him impeached, it was all about Bill cheating on his wife and how his cheating on his wife impeded on his job performance or whatever, as if it was their business. Now, some of you all listening to this and hearing me talk about Bill would think that that would lead to a natural segue into me talking about Donald Trump. But his whole thing, man, is just way too convoluted to get into. I don't even know if it applies to anything that we're talking about in terms of this topic. So Trump gets spared, at least for this episode. I got nothing on him and all of the stuff that he's done. So that was another example. I'll move on to another one. And this one is nuanced as well. Now, while cheating between a man and his wife is none of our business, there are times when it does kind of spill into our business. And the example that I have for that is the example of Mark Sanford. Mark Sanford was the governor of South Carolina. And while he was governor, he went missing for 6 days, just MIA. No one had spoken to him. His staff hadn't spoken to him. His family hadn't spoken to him, all while he's governor. And then after 6 days, he was discovered. He turned up, and his excuse for being missing for the 6 days was that he was hiking in the Appalachian Trail. I don't even know what to say about that. But the Appalachian Trail, he was hiking, he didn't have phone service, he did it because he needed to get away, blah, blah, blah. And I can't even knock his hustle for that. It was creative, if nothing else. I mean, being creative isn't necessarily always the best thing in the world. I mean, shoot, I can never knock Kanye West's creativity, and there's Kanye West drinking game part of the segment, part of the show rather. Kanye West, you can't deny his creativity, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it always turns into like good music. So being creative is one thing, and I applaud Mark Sanford for his creativity. That doesn't necessarily mean that it was a good excuse, though. Matter of fact, it was a bad excuse, especially since it was later revealed that he was actually in Argentina. I don't know if you all know where the Appalachian Trail is, but I can just tell you, it's not close to Argentina. And he was in Argentina with his mistress. Now, normally, like the other examples I used earlier, I would say that that was between him and his wife. And it is. But when you're the head of a state, not to be confused with the head of state, when you're the head of a state and you go missing for a week, that's when your cheating expands beyond just you and your wife. At least Bill Clinton was doing his dirt while he was on the job. Monica Lewinsky was literally underneath his desk while he was talking to dignitaries sucking his dick. Sanford abandoned his job to do his dirt. So I don't live in South Carolina, and let us all thank God for that. Shout out to the people in South Carolina. I have good friends that are from South Carolina, but come on now, y'all don't even really like South Carolina. But if you do live in South Carolina and you're listening to this, tell 50 friends to tell 50 friends, and I think your state is lovely. But anyway, the point is, I don't live in South Carolina, but if I did, in that case, I think I probably would deserve an apology as a constituent of that state. But I would deserve an apology for his abandoning his job. I wouldn't deserve an apology for the reason that he abandoned his job. See the difference? See where we're going with this? Let me go to another example. This is nuanced in a different way. The next example is Tiki Barber. Tiki Barber, he's an ex-football player. No need to get into the details of that. And he parlayed that job playing football into a job at the Today Show. Basically, he was Michael Strahan before Michael Strahan was Michael Strahan at Good Morning America. Matter of fact, I think they played together. They both played on the Giants at the same time. So yeah, Tiki could have been the role model for Michael Strahan. Michael Strahan obviously didn't get in the same issue that Tiki did, and his career as a result has blown up a lot bigger than Tiki's was. But Tiki still provided the roadmap or whatever. But that's neither here nor there. Shortly after taking a job on the Today Show, Tiki met an intern at NBC, and he started a relationship with that intern. And as a result of that relationship, he decided to leave his then pregnant wife. And I don't mean to make Tiki look worse, but she wasn't just pregnant. She was pregnant with twins. So, and that's not funny, but damn, that's hard. So he left his pregnant wife to be with an intern. Now, while like in some of the previous examples, his leaving his pregnant wife for a 23-year-old intern, that's between him and his pregnant wife. Like Mark Sanford, there's a little bit of nuance in Tiki's case. Tiki was on TV. TV is all about marketability. TV is all about Q rating, which is basically likability. And you have to factor that there's a large percentage of women, probably more women than men, that watched the Today Show at that time. It is hard to maintain ratings when one of the people on your show is leaving his pregnant wife for a 23-year-old child. So while he doesn't necessarily owe anybody an apology besides his wife, there are naturally going to be consequences in that industry. So it's not to say that he owes anybody an apology, viewers, or anything like that. But when you're in that industry, yeah, like I said before, there are going to be consequences whether you apologize or not. And women mostly don't look fondly on you leaving your pregnant wife to be with a 20-year-old. So while it's ridiculous that anybody would suggest that Urban Meyer would lose his job because he's in sports, that's the industry that he's in, Tiki probably deserved to be fired solely because of the industry that he worked in, the industry that he was trying to break into. But he still didn't owe anybody an apology beyond his wife. And maybe some other people around in that orbit, her family, their kids that they had before that or whatever. Yeah, but not us. And my final nuanced example goes back to politics. And I use the word nuance in this example because she's a woman, for one. And she's the former Congresswoman by the name of Katie Hill. Katie Hill, she was a California representative who was accused of having inappropriate relationships with people on her staff. Well, she actually admitted later to having inappropriate relationships with people on her staff. Well, one, but I'll go into that in a minute. Anyway, Katie was married to a man, but was having affairs with women. Now, that's a nuance too. Hubba hubba. Even though that's a twist, it's still a matter between a woman and a man, a woman in this case at least, and her husband. Now, in Katie's defense, she only admits to having had one affair, and she says that it was before she was in Congress. But she would wound up resigning anyway because all of this stuff blew up once she got elected into Congress. So basically, she resigned for cheating on her husband. Now, this all did take a really ugly turn when leaked naked pictures of Katie and her lover were exposed to the tabloids. She says that her husband leaked them. Uh, I don't know if he denied it or not, but either way, eek. Boy, you talk about making a twist. But still, even with all of that, and that's a lot, it still isn't anyone's business other than hers and his. I don't know that she should have resigned. If she were my rep, I wouldn't have voted against her because of that. For cheating on her husband with another woman? Is, did it affect her doing her job? That's business between her and her husband. People saying that she should have resigned essentially for cheating on him, that's ridiculous. At least it is to me. Now, on a side note, while I admit that it's petty, I'm kind of not mad on the husband if he did leak the photos to the tabloid. I think it was the Daily Mail. I mean, you talk about a woman scorn. That's a man scorn to like the next level. And ladies, I don't even want to hear that mess because I know that some of you all that might be saying that's foul. Y'all applauded in the movie theater when y'all saw Angela Bassett burn up her cheating husband's car and waiting to exhale. So y'all can't get mad when a man sees his wife cheating and then he like takes some naked pictures and sends them to a tabloid. If anything, I think it's fucked up that the tabloid actually printed the pictures. Talk about foul. And then she wound up suing the tabloid, lost, and wound up having to pay the tabloid $200,000 for their legal fees. Boy, I tell you what, I'm not saying Katie got a raw deal on that because she is the one that cheated, but boy, you talk about the hits keep on coming. That was one of those. What's funny about that whole thing, though, is she cheated on her husband. And then when she got busted, she basically just called her husband abusive. And people just forgot all about the fact that she was a cheater. It was like women were so desperate to rally around her that she was like, oh, basically, I cheated because my husband was abusive and he was abusive for a long time. And women were like, yeah, girl, you should have cheated. Now, men cheat. And when men cheat, they can have one of 1,000 different reasons. And to this day, I don't recall one reason that I've heard a man pronounce to a woman where she said, yeah, that's justification. No. But Katie turned the whole narrative in her favor by basically saying her husband was abusive. Whether he was or not, leaving was an option. Just saying, it's what women would say to men. But I tell you what, it's great to be a woman. Well, I guess we all have to make our personal choices. I much prefer being a man. I mean, I don't bleed. But with all of that said, the point in all of this is that people's personal business is just that, their personal business. And I am amazed that so many of us take this moral high road when we find that people are flawed in the same ways that we are. And even if not in the same ways, in ways that other people could look at us and say, oh, look at you. In the Urban Meyer's case, and I bring up Urban Meyer because Urban Meyer's case is current, is happening right now. And as I watch these football shows in the morning and stuff like that, there's this debate amongst ex-athletes who dare, athletes who probably are the most prominent amongst cheaters, how they would dare weigh in about his cheating and what was appropriate versus what wasn't appropriate. Now, there are other things that he did that they could talk about and they have spoken about, but for anybody on any of these shows to open their mouths and say anything about this man getting basically a lap dance, boy, that's hypocrisy. That's hypocrisy to the hilt. And again, in Shad Khan's case, man, come on, dude. Come on, dude. I tell you what, I understand that you have to do certain things for public perception. And I'm wondering if that's what Shad Khan was doing when he was saying that Urban Meyer needs to re-earn his trust. If I got $8.6 billion, the last thing that I am concerning myself with is public perception. Speaking of which, I end on this note. I don't know how many of you all have watched the Rick James documentary on Showtime. If you have not, I thoroughly recommend it. If for no other reason that they tell this story in the documentary that Rick James, during one of his many coked up episodes, walked into the offices of his record company and he was angry because his last record didn't sell as much as Street Songs did. And he wanted to blame somebody. And when you need somebody to blame and it's not yourself, you blame the record company. And so he was in this record executive's office. He cursed out the record exec, pulled out a bag of Coke, opened up the Coke and dumped it on the exec's desk and took a big snort of the Coke, like Tony Montana style. Just stuck his nose in a big pile of Coke. Then jumped on the man's desk and pulled his dick out. Jumped out the man's desk, grabbed his check, said, "Sell my motherfucking record," and walked out. The record executive looked at Rick James's manager and said 2 words: Lionel Richie. And that's how Lionel Richie got that big push and started winning Grammys and started winning multiple millions of start selling multiple millions of copies of albums, all because Rick James didn't care about his public image, went into the office and did what he did. That executive took all of the budget that was for Rick James marketing and put it all on Lionel Richie. And I wouldn't say that started the decline of Rick James, but he was already declining. But boy, that pretty much finished it. So the reason I brought that up was just because if I had $8.6 billion, I don't snort Coke. And I couldn't see myself pulling my dick out in front of other people and putting it in their face, because that's just disrespectful in ways that I'm just not built like that. But the general sentiment about me caring less and less about what people think about the things that I do, I feel comfortable saying that, yeah, that would probably be me. Yeah. So same sentiment, just without the Coke, and put my dick in somebody's face. Yeah. I think I'm done here. Yeah, and I think on that note, I need to be done here. Reggie, got anything to say? I figured as much. I'll say it then. Goodbye, everybody.